Peru's President Dina Boluarte decreed a state of emergency at the South American country's border with Chile and ordered the deployment of troops to reinforce checkpoints. China condemns new U.S. attempts to undermine peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. In Sudan, the Rapid Support Force and the Sudanese Armed Forces have agreed to extend the ceasefire by 3 days, mediated by the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. Peru's President Dina Boluarte decreed a state of emergency at the South American country's border and ordered the deployment of troops to reinforce checkpoints. The state of emergency took effect on Thursday, but the government did not say what it will entail or how long it will remain in place. The measures aim at blocking undocumented people making their way from north from Chile, affected the border areas of the Department of Tumbes, Piura, Cajamarca, Amazonas, Loreto, Madre de Dios, and Tacna. Likewise, the Peruvian head of state said extra soldiers were deployed to support a police border crossing with Chile, Bolivia, Brazil, Ecuador, and Colombia.
A Supreme decree has been approved, declaring a state of emergency in the border areas of the departments of Tumbes, Piura, Cajamarca, Amazonas, Loreto, Madre de Dios, and Tacna. The National Police will maintain control of internal order with the support of the armed forces.
Ecuador's State and Public Security Council, COSEPE, will meet on Thursday and will declare 8 criminal organizations as terrorists in the country's insecurity crisis. The measure will be part of an executive strategy to involve the armed forces directly in the fight against criminal organizations. The country is suffering from an unprecedented wave of violence caused by the gangs linked to drug trafficking. The provinces of Esmeraldas and Guayas have become the epicenter of crimes, despite the fact that both regions remain under the state of emergency. Shooting, bombing, massacres, the prison riots, and the killing of police officers have kept the life of Ecuadorian of age in recent days. In Haiti, a police crackdown on criminal gangs is underway in Port-au-Prince. Police has confirmed that they have solved over 20 kidnapping cases and seized illegal weapons. Haitian police spokesman Gary Serrault said that 4 assault rifles, 3 9mm pistols, ammunition, 35 cell phones, and communications radios were seized during an operation in the country's capital. The police also confiscated memory cards, digital keys, and 3 vehicles. Moreover, they have also announced the rescue of 25 people who have been kidnapped. Candidates and political organizations in Paraguay carried out last data campaigning for next Sunday's general elections. The South American nation entered the final phase on the general elections to be held next Sunday, when more than 4,700,000 citizens will be able to exercise the right to vote. More than 9,000 candidates have applied for the positions in the different government's early legislative instances, including the elections in the new president and vice president of the republic for next 5 years term, as well as senators, deputies, governors, and members of the departmental boards. Let's take a very short break now, but remember, you can now follow us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan participate via conference in the delivery of nuclear fuel for the Akkuyu nuclear power plant. During the event, Putin described the project as crucial for Russia and Turkey to develop their economic ties. The Russian president emphasized that without a president like Erdogan in Turkey, it would be difficult to speed up project success. Meanwhile, the first atomic power plant to be built in the province of Mersin by the Russian state corporation Rosatom will be able to generate the electricity needed to meet high domestic demands and contribute to the fight against climate change.
I would like to warmly greet all of you, all the participants of today's ceremony of fuel loading at the site of the Akkuyu nuclear plant, to congratulate with a new important stage in the execution, we just spoke about this, of one of the biggest joint projects of Russia-Turkish ties, the construction in Turkey of the first nuclear power plant. Once the Akkuyu nuclear power plant starts functioning at full power, we'll probably supply less natural gas to Turkey. This is a quite expensive product and will only become progressively more expensive. But Turkey will have the advantage of a world power that has its own nuclear energy, which is known to be one of the cheapest.
On the other hand, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan also commented on the joint investment between his country and Russia.
Akkuyu is the biggest joint investment between Russia and us. This project, with an investment cost of $20 billion, was designed and contributed by the Russian establishment Rosatom. All units of the power plant will be put into service gradually until 2028. This power plant alone will provide 10% of our country's electricity consumption when it reaches the full capacity. It will generate approximately 35 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity annually.
On Thursday, Finland's conservative leader, Petteri Orpo, who emerged victorious in April's general elections, declared his intention to form a right-wing alliance with the populist Finns party. Petteri Orpo stated official government negotiations, which will begin on the 2nd of May in the House of the States, will start on the basis of the National Coalition Party, the Finns Party, the Swedish People's Party, and the Christian Democrats. Orpo seeks to find common ground with the nationalists and Eurosceptic Finnish Party and its leader Rakapura, especially on the contentious issues of migration and asylum seekers. On Wednesday, Ukraine commemorated the 37th anniversary of the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear power plant incident with several solemn ceremonies in the affected areas. On April 26, 1986, the fourth reactor of the Chernobyl power plant in Ukraine exploded, a catastrophe that contaminated area of almost 140,000 square meters and generated a wave of radiation related diseases in that territory. After the tragedy, the government of Cuba implemented a multidisciplinary plan in which hundreds of health and science workers participate and which made it possible to treat and rehabilitate some 26,114 patients in over 21 years, 84% of whom were children, mainly from Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus. The Spanish Congress approved a housing law that hopes to curb rising rental rates. The government initiative counted with the favorable votes of the two members of formations of the executive, with 176 votes in favor, 167 against, and 1 abstention. The new regulation is intended, among other things, to stop the rise in rent prices, which have increased by 45% between 2014 and 2021. The law must now go through the Senate, where it is expected to be approved. In Spain, an sweltering heat wave with a record temperature from April and a severe drought with dramatic economic consequences hit the country on days when the thermometer The rich valleys are more typical of July. In this context, the Spanish authorities took some measures. The Ministry of Health proposed regions with multiple competences to advance to May the 15th with the activation of their heat plan normally set for June the 1st. These plans determine the activation of different levels of reach for the population, particularly vulnerable, according to the temperature. On Thursday, in the FIFA Games, the Venezuelan delegation leads the medal tally after 6 days of competition. The host team dominates the tournament with a total of 115 in gold, 165 silver, and 137 bronze medals, while Cuba, which participates in 24 of the 33 disciplines of the competitive program, has 42 gold, 28 silver, and 37 bronze medals. The third place in the medal tally by nations is occupied by Russia, which has obtained 12 gold, 8 silver, and 3 bronze medals. Nicaragua ranks fourth with 5 gold, 18 silver, and 4 bronze medals, followed by Bolivia with 5 gold, 2 silver, and 4 bronze medals. In the sixth place are the Antigua and Barbuda and Dominica with 1 silver medal each. The Middle East close with St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the 7th place with 1 bronze medal. The rest of the nations have not had medals. Listen English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat IL 461 and join our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. China condemns new U.S. attempts to undermine peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. Beijing condemned an agreement signed between Washington and Seoul that will allow a nuclear army U.S. submarine to dock on the Korean Peninsula for the first time in 4 years. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning emphasized that this action harms the strategic interests of other countries, increases tensions, and goes against the goal of nuclearizing the peninsula.
I want to stress that the peninsula issue is very complex and sensitive. All parties should face up to the crux of the peninsula issue and play a constructive role in promoting peaceful settlement of the issue and a political settlement through dialogue and consultation, instead of deliberately stirring up tensions, provoking confrontation and playing up threats.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman also said that the U.S. undermines security in the region and maintains a Cold War mentality.
In order to achieve its private geopolitical interests, the U.S. ignores regional security and insists on exploiting the peninsula issue to create tension. What the U.S. is doing is full of Cold War mentality. It provokes confrontation between camps, undermines the nuclear non-proliferation regime and the strategic interests of other countries, aggravates tensions on the peninsula and undermines regional peace and stability, and runs counter to the goal of denuclearization on the peninsula. China is firmly opposed to this.
Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh met with his visiting Chinese counterpart Li Shangfu and talked about developments in the India-China borders areas as well as bilateral relations. The high Chinese official is visiting New Delhi to attend a meeting of the defense chief of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization on Friday. The group consisted of China, India, Pakistan, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. Indian authorities said the development of a large number of Chinese troops, their aggressive behavior, attempts to unilaterally altered the border status quo, violating agreements between the both countries. A clash 3 years ago in the Ladakh region killed 20 Indian soldiers and 4 Chinese. In Sudan, the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese Armed Forces have agreed to extend the ceasefire by 3 days, mediated by the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. The existing truce, which was to expire at midnight Thursday, has not stopped the fighting between the two sides, but created enough of the lull for tens of thousands of Sudanese to flee to safer areas and for foreign nations to evacuate hundreds of their citizens by land and sea. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry said on Thursday that more than 14,000 refugees from Sudan had crossed the border into Egypt since deadly fighting fell in Darfur. Thomas Okedi, area manager of the North Darfur state for the Norwegian Refugee Council, says that for the last 11 days, no displaced persons in the entire Sudan has seen humanitarian assistance because humanitarian organizations do not have access to the population in need.
It is important that the world stands with the people of Sudan to provide the resources that are required for humanitarian organizations to ramp up emergency response and humanitarian assistance to the people in need. One life lost in Sudan is a life too many. One child crying in Sudan is a child too many. And one woman, one mother who doesn't know what the future holds for her children is a mother too many. It is time to act. We need to guarantee the safety of the people of Sudan. Number two, we need to urgently ensure humanitarian access. For the last 11 days, no displaced person in the entire Sudan has received humanitarian assistance because humanitarian organizations like the Norwegian Refugee Council do not have access to the populations in need. So it is urgent that humanitarian organizations are guaranteed access to the populations in need. And lastly,
the ongoing conflict in Sudan has affected hundreds of thousands of people. CGTN correspondent Maba Mohirin has details on the current humanitarian situation and the needs of hundreds of families to flee in the world in Khartoum. Let's see.
I'm here in Al Jazeera State for a few days trying to report the humanitarian situation and the needs of thousands or hundreds of thousands of families who fled the war in Khartoum, and right now they are in Al Jazeera State. There is lack of shelter, food, medicine and aid. The government of Al Jazeera opened their doors for hundreds of thousands of families. They are approximately about 1 million people came from the capital Khartoum, and right now they are in Al Jazeera. The government is trying to provide them with food, shelter, medicine and life necessities. And this morning the state announced a state of emergency and banned or put laws for monopoly of goods and commodities, especially fuel, medicine, and any necessities, including flour too. So right now the situation is relative calm and peace, but there is fears of the impact of the war in Khartoum and extension of the fighting to Al Jazeera, especially that it's only 180 kilometers from Khartoum, and also because the road linking the two cities is not safe. And it was also in the war zone few days ago when the RSF tried to flee from Khartoum, from eastern Nile city, and use that road in their battles. So now people are fearing any immediate attacks by the RSF or the attack back by the military. There is high security tensions here, and there is preparation for receiving more displaced people from Khartoum right now. But there is fears also of lack of food, medicine, and aid here in Al Jazeera.
Malawi's Ministry of Health confirmed on Thursday the administration of oral cholera munitions vaccines began in 5 districts to mark this year's World Immunization Week. According to Adrian Chikumbe, spokesperson of the Ministry of Health, the vaccination campaign is a crucial part of the strategy to prevent the further spread of cholera, which has already over 1,000 lives. In the country since March 2022, the outbreak has been linked to poor sanitation and hygiene practices, as well as the consumption of contaminated water and food. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has been working closely with partners, including the World Health Organization and UNICEF, to contain the outbreak and prevent further spread of the disease. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also use us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, I'm from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.